Welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be tackling jealousy. And you sent in some really interesting stuff on this.
Yeah.
It's got me thinking, is this just like a caveman emotion, or is there something more to it? Like, how does it fit into our modern world?
I think it's definitely more nuanced than just caveman stuff.
Okay.
Researchers like David Buss, he's found that jealousy,
Okay.
even that like little twinge you might feel seeing your partner talking to somebody else, that might have helped our ancestors survive. Imagine back in the day when resources were limited, a jealous partner might be more protective, ensuring their genes get passed on.
So like that gut reaction, like, hey, stay away from my person.
Right.
That could be evolution. That's so crazy.
It's pretty wild.
It's wild. But okay, so we have this ancient jealousy. How does that play out now with social media?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. We are wired to compare.
Yeah.
But now we're comparing to like everyone's highlight reel. It's less about survival physically and more about your social standing. There are even studies showing that Facebook envy is a real thing. Like it impacts our self-esteem and fuels jealousy.
So those like perfectly filtered vacation photos, those are messing with our heads.
They can.
I can feel that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're scrolling through and you're like, man, everyone's life is way more glamorous than mine.
It's easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah, but is it always about comparison?
It's not entirely. Jealousy always boils down to a perceived threat.
Okay.
To something we value. Psychologists even call this loss aversion.
Your loss aversion.
Like we hate losing what we have, whether that's a relationship, a job, or even our pride.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like we're more sensitive to potential losses than potential gains.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do we know what's a real threat and what's just like our imagination going crazy?
Well, that's the tricky part, right? Because perceived threats, they're totally subjective. What might trigger one person won't even faze another.
Right.
It all comes down to, like, our individual insecurities,
Okay.
past experiences.
Right.
Like, if someone's been cheated on before, they might be more sensitive to signs of infidelity.
Right, right. So jealousy is kind of like this chameleon, changing colors based on who we are and what we've been through.
I like that.
But I imagine that, like, it shows up differently in different parts of our lives, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In romantic relationships, it often revolves around that fear of being replaced. In families, it could be sibling rivalry competing for attention or resources. Even friendships aren't immune. You get jealousy popping up when we feel left out or overshadowed.
I can totally see that. And then there's the workplace,
Oh, yeah.
where jealousy gets pretty cutthroat, especially like when there are promotions,
Absolutely.
recognition,
Yeah.
all that's at stake.
It can get really intense.
It's almost like it brings out our like primal competitive instincts.
It definitely can. And you know what's often overlooked is the missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Instead of letting that jealousy fester, we could actually learn from the people we envy. Like, imagine asking that colleague who got the promotion
Right.
for some advice, instead of just stewing in resentment.
That is such a good point. And I bet they would be more willing to share
Probably.
than we think.
I think so, too.
But sometimes, that jealousy makes you afraid to even ask. Like, if I admit that I admire them, it's like I'm showing weakness or something.
It's a really common reaction.
Yeah.
But it just keeps us stuck in that cycle of comparison and negativity. We miss out on the potential for growth and collaboration.
So it's not just like romantic rivals or
No.
like coworkers.
It goes beyond that.
Right. There's this whole cultural aspect to it, right?
Absolutely.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Oh, yeah.
Wanting the bigger house.
The fancy car.
The perfect Instagram life.
All of it. Yeah. Cultural values, they definitely shape what we even consider desirable.
Right.
And what triggers our jealousy, it's like almost a feedback loop. The more we see these images of wealth, status, the more we crave it, and the easier it is to fall into those comparison traps.
It's like we're chasing this like ever-shifting definition of success.
Right.
And it's dictated by everyone else, not by what really matters to us.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second. Jealousy kind of sucks. It's not a good feeling.
No, it's definitely got a dark side to it.
Yeah.
When jealousy leads to destructive behaviors like possessiveness, sabotage, aggression, it can damage relationships, careers, even our mental health.
It's like it can turn us into the worst version of ourselves. Like we do things we would never normally do.
It can definitely feel that way.
It's like it hijacks our brain.
Yeah.
But is there good news? I mean, we've been talking about how powerful this emotion is.
Right.
Can we even control it?
Well, the good news is, even though jealousy is powerful, it doesn't have to control us. We can learn to manage it. and even use it as a tool for self-improvement.
So how do we go from feeling green with envy to, like, actually using it to our advantage?
It all starts with self-awareness,
Okay.
recognizing when it's creeping in,
Mm.
acknowledging those thoughts and feelings,
Right.
and instead of suppressing them,
Yeah.
exploring them with curiosity.
So instead of just feeling bad about feeling jealous, I should try and figure out why I'm feeling this way.
Yes. What are those feelings trying to tell you?
Hmm.
Often, jealousy points to something that we desire, something we value but feel like we're lacking in our own lives. It could be a skill, a quality, a relationship, even just a way of being in the world.
So it's not necessarily about wanting what someone else has, but like recognizing what I actually want for myself.
Precisely.
Mm.
Jealousy can be a huge motivator if we use it as fuel to go after our goals instead of letting it turn into bitterness.
Okay. So what are some like practical things we can do to shift from feeling envious to feeling empowered?
One key is working on building our self-esteem. When we feel good about ourselves, confident in our abilities,
Right.
we're less likely to feel threatened by others' successes.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly.
The more we focus on our own strengths, the less we need to measure ourselves against others. But what about those times when it just feels so overwhelming?
Well, that's where empathy comes in. Instead of getting caught up in our own negativity,
Right.
try to see things from their perspective. What challenges have they faced?
Yeah.
What sacrifices have they made? What strengths do they bring to the table?
It's like shifting our focus from competition to like appreciation.
Exactly.
So instead of seeing someone else's success as a threat, we can recognize their hard work,
Yeah,
be inspired by their journey. That's so much more positive.
absolutely.
Mm.
And by acknowledging their achievements, you might even learn something valuable
Right.
that you can apply to your own life. Instead of a rival, they become a potential mentor or collaborator.
So it's not about trying to be better than anyone else, but becoming the best version of myself and recognizing that everyone like brings something different to the table. But, we've been talking a lot about us being the jealous one.
Right.
What about when it's the other way around and we're the one being envied?
Oh, that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
For some people, knowing they're the object of envy can be validating,
Great.
even give them a sense of power.
So they get like a little ego boost
Exactly.
from knowing that they have something others want. But I can't imagine that lasts very long.
It can be pretty fleeting because ultimately basing our self-worth on how much other people envy us, that's a recipe for insecurity. It's still relying on external validation,
Right.
not genuine self-love and acceptance.
It's like that need to be the center of attention,
Right.
constantly needing validation. That shows that there are some deeper insecurities there.
That is a very insightful observation. It speaks to how complex these emotions are
Right.
and how they often come from a deeper need for belonging, connection, and self-worth.
And speaking of complexity, we can't forget about the role of jealousy throughout history. I mean, it's fueled so many conflicts and betrayals, even wars.
Oh, absolutely. Jealousy is a tale as old as time. Think about those Greek myths, full of stories of gods and goddesses consumed by jealousy,
Right.
leading to all sorts of drama and tragedy.
It's like this primal force that's been shaping human behavior.
Or ever.
Right, like on both personal and grand scales.
Yeah.
Think of Othello, driven to murder by jealousy, or Henry VIII.
Oh, yeah.
His envy and paranoia led him to execute several of his wives.
Great examples. Those show how jealousy, when it's not addressed, can have devastating consequences.
Right.
Not just for individuals,
Right.
for entire societies.
So today we've journeyed to the heart of jealousy, from its evolutionary roots to its cultural expressions,
Yeah.
its potential for destruction,
Right.
but also, surprisingly, opportunities for growth. It's like we peeled back the layers of this emotion and seen all its different sides.
And hopefully, by understanding it better, we can all learn to navigate it more skillfully.
Right.
Turn what can be painful and frustrating into a source of self-awareness and change.
It's like knowledge is power.
It really is.
By understanding our own jealousy, we can reclaim that power, make choices that lead to happiness and fulfillment. It really feels like that, gaining more control instead of letting it control us. So as we wrap up our deep dive into jealousy, I'm curious what stands out to you the most.
What strikes me is how often we try to just ignore jealousy,
Yeah.
or suppress it, instead of really listening to what it's trying to tell us. Those pangs of envy, they can be uncomfortable,
Right?
but they often point to something that we deeply desire for ourselves.
It's almost like it's like a compass or something. It's pointing us toward what we value, even if it's hidden under all that insecurity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a really thought-provoking question for you to consider.
Okay.
What are you most jealous of?
Ooh,
And what does that reveal about your own aspirations and values?
that is a good question for all of us to think about. Is it a lifestyle,
Yeah.
a skill set, a certain kind of relationship, whatever it is? Instead of letting that jealousy like eat us up inside,
Right.
what if we used it like to make a plan, to take action toward what we actually want?
That's the real power of understanding jealousy, right?
Yeah.
Transforming it from a negative emotion into a force for positive change. It's about shifting from, I wish I had that, to how can I work towards that for myself?
So maybe jealousy isn't actually the bad guy here.
Right.
It's more like a messenger, a very dramatic messenger.
Yeah, a little traumatic.
But it's trying to get our attention, nudging us towards growth.
I like that perspective.
As we say goodbye for today, I hope this deep dive has given you a fresh perspective on jealousy, its complexities, and the potential it holds for personal transformation.
Me too.
It definitely has for me. So until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening to those sometimes uncomfortable emotions that might just be guiding you towards something amazing.
This is DigitView.